Hello, and welcome to another Let's Play versus Impossible AI. So, I did this video twice. The first time was just far too long, so I was trying to cut it down. And then I got a phone call right at the very beginning that I had to grab on the second time and never unmuted my mic. So let's go ahead and go for a third time. Must be the charm. So, I'm going to move very quickly because the first time I did it like 70-minute video. Going to try to cut that down. Mods were the heroes. Not going to alter the balance enough. Very widely used. So, yeah. It does have a significant effect on Rillier here, who I'm going to keep calling Rylai for whatever reason. I go dyslexic with this nation. You have one national hero in the vanilla game. Not any good. Well, not really worth it at all. And I don't know who it is, and I'm ready to throw my phone against the wall over here. You gain 3 heroes with the We're the Heroes mod, and 2 are fantastic, and 1 is absolute garbage. So, Gorge of the Ancient Cities, 3 Astral Pearls, 2 Water Gems, 1 Earth Gem, that's your national income. Troops, Scout, 25 gold, 1 resource. It's Amphibian. Now, you are a water nation. Everything you have is going to be either aquatic or amphibian. I'm not going to really mention it again. What you have to know is the aquatic stuff. The stuff that cannot leave the water. Other than that, Stealthy 15, Dark Vision 50. The Scout's great. Scouts are great. You're going to be buying some out of your forts. Slave Prince, 80 gold, 20 resources. Leadership value of 80, that's plus 1 morale for up to 3 squads. Dark Vision 50%, or Dark Vision 50, might as well be a percent. And Taskmaster plus 1, so slaves gain an additional morale. Your troops come in 2 varieties. They're all either magic beings or slaves. So, no magic being leadership here, so that's plus 2 morale for up to 3 squads as far as your slaves go. Slaves are not all that good though, so Slave Prince I'll have a couple during expansion probably, and then I will have some in the late game if it goes horribly awry, which it very well might. This is a garbage nation. Slave Priest. 45 gold, 1 resource. It's a priest level 1. I'll buy one, never look at it again. It's not going to have the trait down here, but it has the same problem all slaves have, which is a terrible morale. So, yeah. Slave Mage, 175 gold, 1 resource. It's a 2 water, 1 astral, along with a water, earth, astral, or nature random. That's your only nature access in the nation overall. Other than this, it's an old age, and it is a slave, so terrible morale. Slave Mage is your only aquatic mage that you get from underneath the water that is amphibian. I'm just going to mention that here. Because while I would like to just get a hold of a Earth and a Nature version for site searching and never buy these, the chances of me actually being able to do anything on the land are very low. So I'll probably end up with a lot of these slave mages, even though I really don't want them. Grandmother, 300 gold, 1 resource. A lot of stats here. Really doesn't matter. It's a Mind Blaster. Mind Blaster shouldn't be in any type of melee combat. I will say it's got a magic resistance of 20. Very few things in the game have 20. 18's like the cap, kind of, sort of, outside of a handful of 20 things. Mostly really stuff throughout the various ages. Morale 30, not going to break unless the whole army breaks, though. And it's a mobile. Can't move on the world map. Magic Being, leadership of 90. Other than that, Astral 1, Holy 3. It is sacred, it is aquatic, which is actually pretty terrible. You can't do like a crystal coin and a ring of sorcery and then teleport this around and cap some thrones. And it's not going to work out there. There's an item that you can do it with, but you're not going to have the paths, most likely, so no point in mentioning it. Blunt resist, pierce resist, poison resist. It's a magic being, doesn't need to eat, it's blind. And Void Sanity 10. This plus the Abalasts have Void Sanity, not sure why. Doesn't really do anything in the early age. The chances of it actually you ever getting lost in the void they're there, but they're so ridiculously low as to be absurd. And then we have Mind Slime 10. That still seems so weird. The effect results in fatigue that is difficult but possible to resist with magic resistance. So, fatigue damage that can be resisted with magic resistance. The value of the ability is the area of effect. It wasn't until the second time I went through this that I realized this was a 10. They literally just put a patch out today. I don't know which one actually, though. But this was 5 a couple days ago. I've been playing this nation a lot lately. Kind of surprised to see that. Outside this, it's going to have one more use. It is going to auto-summon Popple Spawn. Popple Spawn are some crazy little useless kind of chaff that have no upkeep, but we're just going to mention that right now. We'll look at them shortly. Grandmother, for 300 gold, there's no reason you should be buying this. That is stupid expensive. Up next, we have aboleths. Now, I say aboleths because these are all various aboleths. We're going to start with the aboleth itself. 215 gold, 1 resource. It's a 2 water, 2 astral, along with a water, earth, astral, or death random. So, all aboleths, few common traits they share. They're all going to have very, very high hit points. They're all going to have very good MR from 18 or the Mind Lord's case 20. They're all magic beans. They are all dark vision 100%. They all have some value of Void Sanity and some value of Taskmaster, although they don't really lead many troops, so the Taskmaster, Various innate weapons. They don't have any hands or anything, no axes or anything like that. So different innate weapons from Mind Blast to Enslave Minds. It varies from unit to unit. And they're all going to have the same random paths overall. So, there are 3 things, though, that are very important. 1, they all are able to lead a large amount of magic beans, a massive amount of magic beans. This is very good. It will synergize with a unit we will look at in the near future here. And that is great that they have that. Now, on to the bad news. They are all aquatic. You're going to have to put items on them to get them out of the water. And they're limited to 2 miscellaneous slots in all versions. So, long story short, the post-water patch of Shambler Skin Armors, you can't use them. No body slot here. You still got to use Amulets of the Fish if you ever want to bring any type of aboleth out of the water, which is pretty bad. Not only that, Astral Mages, the miscellaneous slots are incredibly powerful. Really sucks to use up 50% of your slots just to get them into any kind of battle capacity. Up next, we have the cap-only mages. So cap-only Mind Lord first. 420 gold, 1 resource, slow to recruit. It's a 3 water, 3 astral. Same randoms we saw, but a 10% chance at them again. The Mind Lord is fantastic. It's mostly because you don't really generally need things like boosters. You don't generally need things like communions for battle magic. They can cast outright most of the astral magic in the game. Not all of it, and there are times where, especially in the far late game, where communioning up is a fantastic idea. But overall, Mind Lords can cast most everything you want. I will say they cost a boatload of money. They are cap-only, they are slow to recruit, and they cost a ton of upkeep. It would be really nice if they had at least gotten a 3rd miscellaneous slot, but... Alright, so cap-only Abudai, 265 gold, 1 resource. It's a 1 water, 2 astral, 1 death, 1 holy. So, again, same randoms, but this guy can get double death. Unfortunately, no skull staffs, no hand slots. So, double death is the top end of your death access still, which is unfortunate. But I'll pick up an Abudai, double death, to sight search. Once I get my sight searchers out of the way, I'm hoping to turn on Mind Lords and just never flip them off. The proposition is absurd and laughable to think that that's going to happen, but that is the game plan going in. After this, we're on to the troops. So, up front, we have all your slaves. Now, the first 2 types are slaves that are Tritons. Tritons are aquatic only. They never have the ability to leave the water. Unlike commanders, they can never leave the water. There is no reverse item, Barrel of Air, Manual of Water Breathing, Sea King's Goblet. Like, you could bring troops underwater. There is no reverse in terms of bringing troops onto land. It doesn't exist. So any troop that is aquatic, you really have to ask yourself, is there any other possible way I can manage to do this and not buy this troop? Because once I'm done conquering the waters, sure, it might fight some minor raiders at some point in the game, but generally speaking, I'm just going to be paying upkeep on something I can never use again. In the case of this guy, no good. Same thing here, Triton, aquatic only, trash. Up next we have slaves, mermen. So these are mermen type units. Slave Trooper, 9 gold, 2 resources, human statted all the way around, slightly above average magic resistance in comparison though. 12 here versus a 10 on a human. Little deceptive on the defense skill as well. Mermen actually have 9 defense skill on the land. So once you take them out of the water, it's slightly below average on the defense skill here. Now they are slaves. They have low morale, very low morale, which is true, but halved upkeep costs. Outside that, this version is going to come with a net. Net, in order to web things down, is always at least a niche useful, and a stone spear. Then we have the Slave Guardian, 9 gold, 12 resources. In other words, basically take the same unit, add 10 resources to it, and what do we get for it? A shell armor and a meteorite cap. It also does have a spear rather than a stone spear, so damage value of 13 versus a 12 there. A little odd that any of the Ferris type weapons that can rust underwater now were left here at all, in my opinion, but it is what it is. Up next, we have more slaves that are Atlanteans, the little frog people. So, Slave Trooper, 9 gold, 2 resources. Basically, again, compared to human status, above average hit points, slightly above average strength, slightly below average defense skill, but actually equal to your mermen on the land. And Dark Vision, 100%. This version is also just going to come with a Bone Trident, no type of armor. Slave Guardian, 9 gold, 11 resources. Take the same unit, add 9 resources to it, and what do you get for those extra 9 resources? Shell armor. So you're going to get some protection, lose a little defense. This version, again, going to come with the Trident, a Ferrous type weapon, damage value of 7, Bone Trident's damage value 5. So a little higher damage output overall on this version compared to the other two. But we have the Slave Guardian here, again, 9 and 12 versus the 9 and 11 we just looked at. And what we're gaining here is the Meteorite cap, so we're going to pick up a helmet. Still have the Bone Trident, so slightly lower damage value on this unit overall. So, that's the end of the slaves. Slaves are a problem due to this and this alone. They're not archers, they're frontline melee troops, and morale 7 is just very hard to crawl out of a corner with. Just say we use, a slave prince. Well, plus 2 morale brings them up to 9. That's not bad. And if you're in your own dominion, you're even 10. So unlike defense, they have an average morale, right? That's not bad. But then you try using them on some sort of offensive action, what you find is you actually don't gain that bonus 1 from your dominion, you take a negative 1 from being in hostile dominion, meaning a base morale of 8 when you start using these in some sort of offensive action. That's just too low. Sure, you could do some Crown of Commands, or if you have the path, something like a Helmet of Heroes. Get some inspiration on your slave princes. Is it worth it, though, to really utilize these slaves? No, it's really not. A frontliner that can't be relied upon to take, 10 or 20% casualties, and then just literally take off, getting slaughtered wholesale on the way off the map, as well as exposing all of your mages or archers or mind blasters, whatever you're using back there. It's not a good frontliner. Now, are they all useless? No. I personally find either of the armored versions probably the best if you're going to use them. The net version, you're probably not going to use it very often, but having the ability to web targets down, it's not a horrible thing overall. Little flimsy though, and with the morale 7, the unarmored versions are very, very vulnerable to routing. You will be using these to expand with your best expander, both in his party, and they're going to have to clear up some expansion holes. And we'll discuss that when we get to the best expander overall. These do, if you do expand with these compared to your best expander, you will find that they are slightly worse. They're not going to be so much more terrible than your best expander is to just warrant like throwing them in the trash can. You just have to realize that if you just use nothing but slaves to expand, occasionally what will happen is you'll, have 50 in a party and 5 or 7 will die, and they will decide that the battle is lost, and like 40 some will just start running, and they'll get slaughtered as they try to get off the map. And that's just what's going to happen to them no matter what you do with them. It's just the way they work. So, I also find them to be a little overcosted. Are they actually overcosted at 9 gold? Well, I would feel a little more comfortable at 8. I say a lot of things I think are slightly overcosted, but Slave Mage. Are they actually overcosted at 9? Probably not. That's probably a fair price overall. The problem is we have this guy right here, the Lobo Guard. So Lobo Guard is probably, in my opinion, the best recruitable chaff unit in the game. Not comparing him to any summons or free spawn or anything like that, just recruitable stuff. And this is why they look expensive, because this guy has 5 gold and 1 resources. So let's look at the bad here. Protection of 2, no armor on him, and his skin is like toilet paper. Defense of 7, basically going to get hit by everything. Slightly below average attack skill, may have some trouble against some elite troops overall. And a magic resistance 5, there are a handful of spells I found that can be problematic. That's generally when I'm fighting another pretender though. But on the upside, they cost 5 gold. You can have them die in droves and it really doesn't matter. They have 13 hit points, so even with that really low protection, what you're going to find with this above average hit points is that sometimes they'll take a hit and actually just survive, just because they've got a slightly higher hit point value than what you would expect. Not all the time, but enough to where it's nice. The strength is above average as well, which is good. Claw, no length, no extra attack or defense. It's like punching with a fist, but instead you have a claw. Just a strength-based weapon. Whatever your strength is how much damage it's going to output. Since you are above average at 12, that's actually not terrible damage out of a 5 gold chaff unit. In fact, that's pretty decent for a 5 gold unit. They are all magic beans, and this is what really ties into the aboleths, because when you start to utilize Loboguard, what you have to understand is they're chaff. Even when you get them to the very top end of chaff with lots and lots of great buffs, of course, they still die quite easily because they're chaff. But the thing is, they're 5 gold units. They can die in droves, and it really doesn't matter. You just buy droves more, and it doesn't really cost you all that much. So, this is also going to lend as they are Morale 50. Now, Morale 50 denotes them as mindless. Now, mindless units, not affected by certain spells, doesn't really matter too much. What it really matters here, though, is that mindless units will never rout. So you have this incredible 5 gold chaff unit that you guarantee will never rout. That is just, if your jaw is not hanging open at just looking at the possibilities there, well, there's something wrong with you. Now, on the flip side, you got to make sure you bring enough firepower, because the Loboguard are still just chaff. If too many of them die and you get like an HP rout, they're still not going to rout. Your mages are going to take off, but these are all going to die. Well worth the price, though. The Loboguard really, really shine. Of course, you're going to need some boosters or various summons in order to access some of these spells overall. So you're going to have to do some empowers or build it into your pretender. But these just scale so stupid well with alteration. Wooden warriors are mass protection. Fantastic. The earth side of it, marble warriors. Or if you go, I think it's enchantment 3, strength of giants, increase the damage output on these. Very good. Water has wave warriors, are very deep into it, quickening. Astral has will of the fates, plus the more minor version of that. The best part, though, and probably the hardest to access overall, is they do have dark vision 100%, which means if you can get Death Forecaster for darkness, that's a -6 to attack and defense skill of things without that dark vision. Backed especially by any of the protection buffs, these become absolute monsters. With, 5 to 10 mages, depending on how your game's looking overall, if you can get pretty much all the good core buffs down, what you'll find in the late game is that like 2,000 gold worth of these, like 400 of them backed, again, by about 10 buffing mages, somewhere in that area, will maybe not easily, because they're still going to be taking pretty good casualties, but they can wipe the floor with like 10,000 gold armies, something that's 5 times their gold value, which is just absurd in and of itself. I can't say enough good things about the Loboguard. Up next, we have the Shambler Thrall, 20 gold, 1 resource. This is your best expander in the nation, with a few things that you have to understand. Protection, very low at 7. So, got to use some arrow catchers. Arrows will absolutely, even short bow, damage value 13. Extreme amount of damage will be taken by Shambler Thralls during expansion without arrow catchers. The Defense 7 in mixed with the Protection 7 here also means the second thing is you really got to learn the AP ratios, how far these can move versus how far most other things can move, at least the more common things you will run into. Because even militia will deal pretty significant damage to these. It's not uncommon for these to take pretty decent attrition while expanding. Losing 2 to 4 on an expansion is not, 4 is definitely not great, but it does happen occasionally. So if you don't learn the AP ratios and you really get attacked first time each time, your attrition rate on these is actually going to be really bad. You gotta be able to go in and get that first hit off and rout a bunch of them. So the next thing is their magic beans. This is really bad because you're very, very off in how you want to research with this nation anyways. You're going to lose any sort of real early research advantage you have. Now, they're mindless as well, so they're not going to rout, which is kind of nice, but at the same time, the only mage you have access to get on the water happens to be that slave mage, morale 7 on him. So if you get to like 10 or less of these, you got to be very careful, because sometimes that slave mage, you'll lose 1 or 2 of them, and he'll decide battle's lost and take off, and guess what? These are not running off with him. They're all dead. It happens from time to time. So that's the third thing you really got to know. And the most important thing, though, is these are size 3, which is important because they are tramplers. If you're paying 20 gold for something this flimsy that literally has a claw damage attack at 16 value here, you're throwing gold away in a massive way. They cannot expand against any troops that are size 3 or bigger. Shamblers can't do it. This is what I mean by there's holes in their expansion. You cannot, if you expand against Shamblers, they will wipe out 200 to 400 gold of these in about 2 turns. It's not that hard for them. Tritonites, Trolls, Krakens, Shark Knights, any type of cavalry on the land, be it undead to cataphract, any type of Amazon province, elephants, cavemen, Garthians, troglodytes, anything that's size 3 or bigger, you're going to be throwing gold away if you try it. You're just going to have to come back with some slaves and just say, well, I'll pick that up later. So your expansion kind of wonky in that regards because you just can't take whatever provinces you want. Okay, after that we have the Giboleth, 40 gold, 1 resource. Bunch of stats here, but he's a Mind Blaster. Again, shouldn't be any type of melee combat. Outside that, though, it is aquatic only. It's a magic bean, and it has dark vision 100%. Let's look at the cap-only Gibodai real fast. 50 gold, 1 resource. So extra 10 gold. What are we getting here? Well, slightly different innate attacks overall. Still has the Mind Blast, though. Slightly different stats. Really what we're gaining here is the Sacred status. So 20 upkeep cost a year here. Giboleth's going to cost you 32. Now, these are aquatic only, and I said you really have to ask yourself, is there anything else that could do this? There's actually a extreme time when you are going to start buying these. And it's very simple. If you haven't figured it out by now, you have a fantastic chaff unit, but all of these are so unreliable that you might as well consider them chaff due to the very poor morale, of course. So you really don't have what you would call a quality troop anywhere within your roster here. At least your cap-only roster. So what you're going to find is that early and mid-game wars underwater are incredibly hard for you to fight, especially when you don't have any battle magic yet. If you get into those situations, you're going to have to probably fall back to the Giboleth and the Gibodai just to get some Mind Blasters to back up your really crappy troops. And there's no way around it sometimes. Sometimes you'll do it and you'll still lose. It's just the way it goes. But sometimes they will actually manage to carry you through. So, do you ever recruit the Giboleth or Gibodai? Yeah, sometimes. Do you ever want to recruit them? Oh, God, no. No. I think like the Underwater patch should have hidden paths on these so you could Divine Name or Gift of Health of them into mages at some point during the game. But what do I know? So, foreign recruit, water. Doesn't matter if it's deep sea, like this, or sea. So what you're going to find in these type of provinces is you can buy Papal Mothers. 100 gold, 1 resource. These are just scaled down grandmothers. 104 hit points versus the 30 here. 90 magic bean leadership to 40 here. These are only going to be priest level 2, and since they are priests, you're going to have to put a temple in any province you want to buy these in. But you can buy them in any water province once you get that temple up. Does this have Mind Slime 10? No. That's weird. I didn't see that in the patch notes, but that is guaranteed. This used to be Mind Slime 5, but so did the Grandmother. I didn't even notice that the first time I went through. The second time that kind of threw me off. Patch day, so obviously a few things do change here and there. This also is going to make Popple spawn. Different mechanic, though. This uses Dom Summon, whereas the Grandmother uses Auto Summon. Basically, if this happens to be standing in a province that's enemies black candles, you're not getting any free spawn. And so just kind of keep that in mind. You got to keep your Dominion up. Now, these are not a useless unit. And that's going to just be because even with the changes where it's harder for Dominion to spread from land into the water, what you find is as the game moves on and basically people begin maxing out their Dominions, it's going to start really pushing you. In other words, as you start hitting the late game, you're going to get Dom pushed a little bit, even in the early and middle game. But really, when you hit that late game, Water Nations are in serious trouble if they don't have some sort of land foothold to being Dom killed. So you basically just make one of these like I've done here. Of course, you'd put, temples up in all of these provinces. Early game, well, I mean, I wouldn't have the temples in the early game, but like mid-game, I don't know, make 1 or 2 in each of these provinces of the Papal Mothers. And then just keep an eye on your Dominion. Just understand that if your Dominion starts falling, you got to add another 1 or 2, whatever you can afford. It's a pretty simple principle. Preaching works A little different. Normally, you could preach a number of candles equal to your priest level, so 2 in this case, unless you're preaching in a province which happens to have a temple, in which case preaching is priest level times 2 plus 1. 2 times 2, 4 plus 1, 5. So even though you can see, just because I have a test game here just to basically look at everything, you can see I have 5 Dominion here even though I don't have 2. These can preach up to 5 Dominion, but that's the thing. Even if you have 9 or 10 Dominion, they're never going to be able to preach you that high. They're never going to be able to get you like a massive barrier along the water. It is nice to have a barrier, though. Other nations, if they want a barrier in the water, they got to summon Telestric Animates in mass, or they got to start using Bishop Fishes, which means spending a lot of gems for it, which is not fun. Not fun at all. I do think they're ever so slightly overpriced. Not horribly so, but I definitely feel better at like 90 gold at those. So, Popple Spawn, these little free spawn here. What are they? Hit points 5, size 1, 6 per square. Protection, that's 11. That's, top end of the light infantry, maybe lower end of the medium. Magic resistance, pretty good at 13. Morale and defense are slightly below average at 9 apiece. Strength really doesn't matter because their tiny tentacle does a max of 1 HP damage. Other than this, they are aquatic, they're magic beans, and they have dark vision 100 as well. So, Popple Spawn, what do I think of them? Well, they're basically just chaff in the water. Is that really going to do you a lot of good? Yeah, kind of. They're not really going to kill even light raiders on their own. The thing is, basically any province you have these in, you probably have some Popple Mothers who have a 2 Mind Blasts a turn. So if you back them up with a handful of Mind Blasters, they're obviously not ever going to shine at any point, but they could push off some minor raiders. As you really get into the late game, if a land nation happens to have, one province and you don't want to deal with it right now and they just keep making aquatic units and trying to raid you with them, it's pretty easy. You just collect these all up from your other provinces where they're not needed and just put them there, and with Popple Mother, boom, problem solved. Now, are these going to stop a full-on water invasion from, say, another water nation or a nation like Agartha? Absolutely not. These are nowhere close to durable enough, powerful enough, or anything else to stop a full-on type of invasion. They will manage to throw off some light raiding work, though, overall. Mostly just because they're backed up by the Mind Blast right here. So they're all right. You get them for free, and you'll probably have some others anyways, so it's not a big deal. Up next, we have, like all water nations now, Foreign Recruit Coast. Now, real quick, how many coastlines do you believe are on this map? Because this is something you have to understand. Coastal provinces are known because they connect to the water. This map does not have 8. This map has 4, because if you look at these, it doesn't matter what the map looks like, these 2 center ones across here don't actually connect to the water and are not coastal provinces. So some maps a little wonky, just keep that in the back of your head. I mean, I've never done it. Yeah, like anybody's going to believe that. It'll piss you off. You'll probably do it with some water nation at some point if you play them. So what do we have here? We've got a troop and a mage. So the Androleth, 50 gold, 16 resources, a lot of stats. Again, Mind Blasters shouldn't be in any type of melee. The reason I'm not going through most of the stats, trying to condense some time here, but again, Mind Blasters are all 40 or 50 gold units, all very, very expensive, and they usually don't have the kind of damage output or attack and defense skills. They get slaughtered fairly easy by even mediocre troops in melee combat. So if they get there, you're already in a significantly bad spot. Outside of this, they are magic beans. Like I said, everything in this nation literally a magic bean or a slave. You take a Popple Spawn and they attach themselves to the body of a human host, kind of a little parasitic thing, and what you get are basically these 2 types of units, which unfortunately don't live very long. So they start at age 1, and by age 5, year 5 years old, they grow old. I'm not going to lie to you, it's not a significant problem. It would be nicer, because it's a bit of a slow nation, if that was like a 6, 7, or possibly even an 8. But, again, not going to make or break your game overall. And the reason I say this is the same game sizes I play, like 8 players, maybe 10 players under, something like that. Or even a lot of the Let's Plays I watch, year 6 or 7 is basically when the game's wrapping up. And you're basically not going to start recruiting these till, winter of year 1, probably closer to year 2. which is going to mean these are not really hitting old age till 6, and by then, you or somebody else is pretty much already winning the game. You shouldn't be in a tooth and claw battle to be still winning at that point. Again, same game sizes. I found this to be an incredible problem when I did like all the EA nations at once, especially when I went with some Androleth heavy builds. It was bad. It was really bad. When you have a couple thousand of these out in the field and winter hits, because so many of them just start stacking that old age up, and then winter will hit again, and suddenly it's like boom, 200 to 400 of them catch diseases at once. You better hope you have Gift of Health up, because I found out there's nothing else that can clear that many diseases that fast, and you will lose a lot of gold that way. So, again, not game breaking. Just you got to understand the longer the game goes on, the more of a problem it becomes. Overall, though, I'm not a big fan of the Androleth. It's entirely. I mean, I love Mind Blasters, but it's just entirely the way they work. Actually, I think it has a lot to do with just what your other options are in this nation. And what I mean by that is, normally a nation, they can recruit them out of their cap, but they have a very hard time, if not impossible time, picking them up anywhere else on the map outside of their capital. But you expand with them, and by the time you move into the mid-game, I don't know, you got, 60, 100 of them, something like that. And then you kind of shift them into your mid-game and use your Mind Blasters backed by whatever troops you want to use. That's not at all how this works. You can scale them ridiculously high. Like, I could put forts in all 4 of these provinces and manage to churn out more Mind Blasters than other nations that have Mind Blasters generally can. Again, I'm not really going too deep into it because it's not true for every nation. But it just happens to be, since you can't recruit them, that you really don't have a large stack of Mind Blasters, enough to really do anything with, until closer to the year 3 when Battle Magic starts coming online. And that would be the point where they would have really shined and you would want to be using them more in a capacity. I just find the timings of this nation to be very off in a lot of ways. So, yeah. And they're not terrible. I still think it's great to have the niche use of them. I just was not a big fan when I tried going with heavy builds of them. After this, we have the Androdi. So 190 gold, 1 resource. It's an Astral 1, Holy 1, and since there are those Popple spawns, guess what randoms we have? Yeah, that's right, the same as all our Aboleths. The Popple spawns are just miniature Aboleths, very young versions. So, the Androdi, the good, Mind Vessel. It's a national spell. We'll look at it in a moment. Very good that it has that. They're all communion slaves. That's cool. 190 gold's not bad for a communion slave for most nations. These are probably your best overall researcher. Now, like Slave Mage, 175 gold to 13 RP. That's going to be a more favorable gold to RP cost there, until you start looking at the fact that this is sacred, so it's got the reduced upkeep cost, and then you realize this costs 76 gold a year versus a Slave Mage at 140, and what you're going to find is this has the better RP to upkeep value overall, so going to be a much better researcher long-term than the Slave Mage. In fact, in raw gold value, a difference of 64 gold, or if you divide that by 12 into the years, it's going to be 5 1/3 gold. So 3 turns into the game, this unit actually is 1 gold cheaper than a Slave Mage. After 3 turns, if you recruit them both at the same time, this is 1 gold cheaper already after 3 turns. Never going to quite have the same output, but that's alright. Now the bad, and I mean Nightmare. These are insane. Insane units, ooh, they're really frustrating to use. So, Insane 10, game's basically going to roll a, percentage chance, and if you hit that 1 through 10 point on here, this unit's going to go insane for the turn, and you're not going to be able to give it any actions. After it goes insane, the game will then roll off a list of actions afterwards that it tells it what it's going to do for the turn. And it's slightly annoying because some of the things, like sometimes it will call God, or it will do a bunch of very unvaluable kind of like fluff things that it will basically say. And they're never going to move back over to the defend order, meaning as you hit in and cycle through your troops, it's very easy to forget for 2 or 3 turns and realize, oh wow, I just lost because of all these crazy mages that should have been researching, they're doing other things. I just ended up losing 400 RP because I wasn't paying any attention. The real problem, though, becomes trying to utilize them in any sort of battle mage capacity. And it's a very simple principle, just say I've got 20 here, and I don't know, we're marching to here, that's where their capital is or something. That's enough troops, though, right? So I got my 20 mages, and 2 per turn on average, if averages work out. Of course, you'd be lucky or unlucky here. We'll go insane a turn, right? So, I don't know, the turn you attack out, 2 are insane. So it's like 18 and 2. Now, you move these 2 forward, and you got a little train behind your main army, because your main army is still going to attack forward, and 1 goes insane. Now it's like 17 and 3, and then 15 and 5, and then 13 and 7. It's really bad. You're going to find somewhere between like a 4 to 6 province jaunt. Means that your main army is just going to have to stop and wait for all these mages back here because you've lost too many of them. It's going to weaken them. Not only that, the AI even manages to raid these guys out. They're not good leaders. They're not great mages in and of themselves. So, they will attack in where your army should have been and wipe out 1,000 gold worth of mages pretty easily. The best thing you can do to try to counter that is to literally put them all on retreat and either stop moving your army here or just realize they're still going to be right behind your main army. Of course, some will retreat this direction and they're going to be completely cut off, and you have to go through and figure out which ones are which and rescript them all when they do merge back into your main army. It's kind of a micro nightmare to be using any insane units. I mean, I love Cthulhu Mythos, but I don't play Late Age Relie because the insanity just too much for me. Well, Pop Kill Nations in general, the free spawn kind of micro kills me anyways. I hate doing it. But yeah, that's a significant problem if you try to utilize these guys. Again, I find somewhere like 4 to 6 provinces, that's about as far as you're going to be able to push a group if you're utilizing them in any actual numbers. Much like the Slave Mages, I don't want to recruit these guys outside of just a handful that I absolutely need. We'll see how that works out, because I don't think that's at all how that's going to work out. I'll probably get a couple of them, and then I'll lose complete control of the land. So, national spells. Man, my mouse is messing up today. Very easy. Thaumaturgy 3. Mind Vessel. Number of effects, 1. Astral Pearls, 15. Can only be cast by Aboleth commanders. So, I always forget the name of those little insane guys. I'm just going to call them Crazy Mages. So, you're going to take a Crazy Mage, put them in, the same province as any type of Aboleth. Doesn't matter which of these 3 versions. You go ahead and cast Mind Vessel. Now that's going to put a buff on the Aboleth, who can only Mind Vessel 1 unit at a time. It's also going to put a buff letting you know on the little Crazy Mage which Mind Lord's in control of him. And then what's going to happen is the spell's effect is it's going to take whatever the Aboleth's astral level is and replace the Crazy Mage's astral level with. So if I have a random Astral Mind Lord who's 3 Water 4 Astral, and I take a 1 Astral 1 Death Mind Lord, and I Mind Vessel, I'm going to gain for 15 Astral Pearls plus 3 Astral, or a total of 4 Astral 1 Death on him, which isn't bad for 15 Astral Pearls. On the flip side, though, you could take a Crazy Mage that's double Astral, rolled a random Astral, in other words, and I don't know, take an Aboleth that rolled a random Death, so he's 2 Water, 2 Astral, 1 Death. You can then cast the spell for 15 and gain plus 0 Astral. Astral Pearls, very, very, very good for this nation. You're going to need a lot, especially if you end up in a late game scenario, which is quite easy to do, unfortunately. So I'm not going to over Mind Vessel these guys, just the Astral 4 Mind Lords. In fact, looking at the Amulet to the Fish to Mind Vessel, you know what? That's going to be like a 2 or 5 minute tangent. I'll talk about that some other time. So, most important part of playing this nation. It's not your pretender creation, it's this right here. This is going to be a tangent that we absolutely have to discuss, though. Let's just say we're going to talk about weird timings and how to fight a early or mid-game war. And by early or mid-game, early game is, up to year 2, basically, by most people's standards. And mid-game will kind of vary, because that's when you start Late game is when you start utilizing your battle magic finally. But year 3, that's pretty safe area to say. Varies very much from nation to nation as to how much research you need, but we'll call that good, right? What do you have for an early or mid game battle? Well, this is actually a interesting question because you're going to have to take the land, and you're not going to be able to get a fort up on it. If you take it very early and divert money away from your expansion forces, you can get it up in fall of year 1 quite easily. However, it's probably going to be closer to like winter of year 1. So when are you actually going to be able to start recruiting Mind Blasters in a decent enough, or have a decent enough number of Mind Blasters recruited in order for them to begin to affect the land more? Well, that's actually going to be like late year 2, late fall, sometime during the winter of year 2. Before then, sure, you'll have a few Mind Blasters, but you're not going to have even close to what you need in order to affect outcomes on the land. Alright, so we've got a few of them. What other tools can we add to that to work with it? Lobo Guard. Lobo Guard are fantastic. We will flood the lands with chaff. Yeah, that's a great idea, but the problem is you really need those aboleths. Let's look at the Abudai. Abudai is going to be able to lead less than the Mind Lord or the aboleth itself at 145. Now, a Slave Mage leads 25, or if they happen to get an Astral Random, 30. So you're going to need like 5 to 6 mages to lead slightly more than a single Abudai will on the land. So again, we're looking at that time frame in the early and the mid game. Not only would you have to pull all of your slave mages out of the lab and completely stop your research, but you're only going to be able to get, 250, 300 of absolute chaff units onto the map. That's not even close to enough. If you're going to flood something with chaff, you need lots of it, and I do mean many hundreds of them. So again, just like your Mind Blasters, sure, okay, we've got enough, we got a few Mind Blasters, we got a few Lobo Guard. What about our mages, since we're having to pull all our mages out just to even utilize the Lobo Guard? Well, now we're going to find that there's a problem, because the first area you're going to really dig for is going to be either Conjuration 5 for Voice of Tiamat, reveals all elemental sites in water provinces. That's going to net you all water, earth, fire, and more importantly, air gems that are underneath the waves, because you want the air gems for those amulets of the fish. Or you're just going to flat out skip that side and just say, well, I'll have to do some site searching with my pretender, and go straight for that Construction 4. So you're actually not really going to have any battle magic either. I would highly suggest, not just with this nation, but any, to have like a research level 1 or 2, that even if you have to go to a different area to pick up is a great idea. In this case, Evocation 1. So you'll basically have cold bolts out of all of your mages. Definitely not enough. So what do you have to throw with all of this not enough stuff that could be decent, but you don't have the numbers actually necessary or required? Well, what you end up having are slaves and Chandler Thralls, with very light numbers of the stuff that you would actually need in real numbers that you can't actually supply. And if you kind of take all this together, what you come to the realization of is this nation sucks on land. And when I say sucks on land, I mean your ability to project any power from the water onto the land is terrible. It's ridiculously bad. It is nightmarishly bad. Any nation that wants to kick you off of the land provinces and steal them all from you, I don't care how much gold you have, there's nothing you can do about it. Earlier mid-game war, occasionally you can, maybe if they have really poor skills, I've done it a couple times, you can get away with it and just push them back, just barely to hold on to a province or two. Generally speaking, this would be a fort backed with far too much gold and PD, more so than what I would ever be comfortable saying against anybody that has ever seen me play. But that's the choice you have. There's no middle ground. You either cede all of the land, or you throw a ridiculous amount of PD backed with the tiny amount of other things that you can get a hold of, and literally completely stop your research in order to defend like a single land province, which I sometimes do to literally just hold a fort open enough to get a few crazy mages out and underwater to Mind Vessel later in the game. But it really is bad. Now I said a couple things. I said what for the the early mid game war, but I also said the timings were wonky. Now what did I exactly mean about this? What I meant by this is standard nation, not all nations because they all work slightly differently, but generally speaking, you use high quality, very expensive troops to expand. You do this because, well, they don't really die, and then you suddenly go into they also have better expansion rates than most of the other stuff you can use. Then you move into the mid game. Now, the mid game, you use said high quality troops in order to secure your borders or even go to war with somebody. Pretty simple concept. Then, in like a year 3, generally speaking, varies again from nation to nation, what you find is you've hit your battle magic and you can then start utilizing a handful of mages in key positions in order to actually really start to bring yourself into a position of power. So how does that compare with a nation like R'lyeh here? Well, your early game, you expand with things that are ridiculously flimsy and chaff-like, and you take heavy losses. So you really don't move into the mid-game with any troops to speak of. Okay, that's not a big deal overall. So the mid-game is completely just you, if you want to have a mid-game, recruiting, again, chaff troops, or your slaves, which might be slightly above the quality of chaff, but not by much. That terrible morale really does hurt them. Okay, so we'll just kind of push towards that year 3 mark. Now, I said that was kind of, a placeholder in terms of from nation to nation. This is one of those nations. Your actual time when your battle magic comes online is going to be a little bit later than everybody else. Because what you're going to find, again, you're doing that construction research, but you don't have the advantages of a lot of the nations that would do this as well. I'm looking at the giant nations, or perhaps like the pony nations. Any really good thug nation can gain significant combat power out of going this route, especially if they can get some early site searching to grab those gems up. You don't have any thugs. You're the only thing you're gaining from this, at least in the short term, is the ability to utilize your mages on a majority of the map in any regards. Yet it doesn't even mean that you have any magic for them yet. Your magic's actually going to come online later than that. So you're going to find that at every point you're actually behind the curve of what the other nations are actually doing. I have some pretty good ideas on this nation overall. I really don't think it's very suited for a single player. I would love to see somebody play this in multiplayer because I think it might be quite a bit stronger there, but that's another subject. So, what do we have to know basically about maps then because of that? Well, you need enough water where if you get stuck in the water the whole game, you can win. Now, 8 provinces out of the number on this map, actually not very good, 8 out of, I think, 93, so under 10% of the provinces are actually water, which is terrible. But beyond this, I think I played 4 games here, and I did manage to win one. It was a brutal campaign, though, and I'm not going to lie, I think there was a lot of luck in it as well. But even if you just, which you should, expand immediately, either this direction, because this is wraparound, or this direction, it's 3 provinces either way, but you pick up the other water, you don't have a solid core of water, so your Dominion push really easy, even in the early parts of the late game. You're not even having to wait till like that year 4 or 5 where you're in dire straits as far as Dominion goes. You start getting pushed really fast and really hard really early. Just nothing about this map is good. So what you're probably going to want is at least 10 provinces, and you're going to want to make sure it's maybe not all connected, but at least a good semi-core of it is connected. So I've been playing quite a bit on Peliware. It's got this, again, wraparound, 10 provinces right here. That's more than enough to carry you through, and it's not that hard. 2 province jump to here, and this is 3. 2 province jump from that water, or a 2 province jump straight from your normal area into here. And you got a 2 province jump basically right across here, which is there. Oh, I'm sorry, here to which is there. I'm like, that doesn't look right. So yeah, you can actually grab up some of the extra little water here, because while water is a barrier for you to get out of, it's also a barrier for other players, including the AIs. The AIs, basically, if they can't come underwater to kill you, which they can't, generally speaking, They can't win the game either, though. That's what a real player has to do, is they just kind of keep you contained in the water, and then eventually they win the game all on their own. And the AI doesn't have the ability to cap all those thrones and win the game on its own, so something like this is a strong map to play this nation on. Uh, Phantomine, not very good circular areas as far as Dominion go. You're going to have to go a little heavier on the Popple Mothers, but again, I didn't mind this map terribly so. I mean, 19 sea provinces compared to the 62 land, that's very, very in your favor. And what you'll find is it's like a 2-province jump or a 2-province jump somewhere down here, which is just really, or you can even do it right across here. It's really in your favor to be able to jump into the other water and grab up a significant number of the provinces overall. I mean, just pick your maps wisely. We're going to do Throne Lands. So 70 land plus 10 sea. That meets my requirements. It's also one giant circle pond with a piece of land in the middle. So I should be able to grab up like 11 provinces. That's good. It's also going to keep generally the same ratio that I have, like 84 plus 9, that's what, 93. I forget what it comes out to, but it's like 18 and a half provinces per player. This is going to come to a flat 16 provinces per player, so very close into how I like to play these, mainly for a time constraint. Alright, so Impossible. Go ahead and set this to Rillier, who, for whatever reason, I spent the entire time I've ever typed, actually, is doing like Rylea. I don't know. I always typed it Ryleeh, and it's really thrown me off. Okay, here's something you're gonna want to do if you play this nation. I'm not gonna do this because if I take a loss, it's not a big deal to me. You don't want to fight another water nation. So let's take a peek right here. What nations can you beat in an earlier mid-game war? Consistently, a single nation. One nation out of this whole list is the only one you can beat consistently. And that's going to be Therados, because they're a pop kill nation. They tank all of their skills, and you're able to rush them quickly enough. What you will find is that they will have about 10 Sacreds and about 30 Ghosts, and you should have, well, when you start attacking their capital, you won't have as many as you need, but you'll probably have 400 to 500 Chaff units. What you will find when you have to assault their fort and kill their god with Chaff units is you're going to need 600 to 1,000 of them, unless he's a big air mage. If he's a big air guy, you got to dom kill him. There's no other way to do it, at least that I found. Yeah, so the rest of these, occasionally I've gotten some good luck events and managed to beat Oceania, especially when they had not a great setup overall. Kaliza I managed to beat, I think, once, and I had pretty good luck against Statist when they had pretty poor skills as well. But I wouldn't generally count on that. Generally speaking, you should lose to basically all these. And when I talk about beating like something like Kaliza or Statist, I mean I was able to hold more than a single province on the land against them, which is a absolute feat of incredible godlike might, because it is not easy with this nation. So you're probably going to want to flip these all to land nations again. I've had a lot of losses with this nation, more than I've ever thought was possible, but if I lose, it's not a big deal. Yeah, you really don't want to play, though, against Atlantis or Pelgia. If they go to war with you in the earlier mid-game, they will absolutely stomp the piss out of you, and it's not even fun. Kind of the problem, actually, with Oceania and Atlantis is they have pretty good land projection. So they kind of flood you with water-based troops the entire game. It's really hard to get out of the water and finish them off, even when you do go on the offensive later and you get into that position. Okay, Pretenders, not a huge selection here. Much like the Eastern nations, you're going to be kind of limited. Paths. What are good paths here? Basically, there's no real standouts here, is what I'm trying to say. Really, if you just want very cheap, though, I will go ahead and point out the Floating Mine is the cheapest pretender in the whole damn game. Very expensive to get new magic path costs, but if you happen to be going for, say, a wish type build, this is so good, because then you can do something like this, and that, and that, and that. Damn it. I mean, that's a wish build with massive Dominion protection in the water, along with just absolutely great skills. So that's really the only standout. I personally kind of like the Void Lurker too. Dominion 4, the Magic Path cost 20, already Astral 3. It's pretty strong in and of itself, if I'm going to be honest. This guy actually might be a cheaper Wish Factory guy because of the high Dom and that. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and check. And then we bump this up to 9. This is cheaper. Wow. I could buy 2 more skulls with that. Well, I'm not going to. Yeah, anyways, magic. Magic that's good for you. I'm going to say the air and water combo, because without that, there's no Amulet of the Fishes. If you don't have Amulet of the Fish, which I kind of tried, and I don't even think I finished the game because I came to a realization. Well, I tried a couple times. The second time was a completely different type of thing. I was trying to use Voice of the Tiamat, though, to get enough air gems and then empower in a quick enough fashion in order to then project onto land with my Aboleths. Turns out that basically if you don't take the air-water combo, you seed all of the land. There's literally nothing you can do, even when you hit that mid-game, or the beginning of your late game, because you just can't bring any of your Lobo Guard onto land in numbers that you actually need. So I would say this absolutely needed. 1 water, 1 air. Beyond that, 3 important paths that would be great to have. Not needed, but great to have. Earth 3, that's going to be your Earth Boots, Dwarven Hammers, a quarter of your Crazy Mages, and your Slave Mages, which have a feat slot on land. Put Earth Boots on them, and then summon Earth Power. You have Earth 3 Mages, much better, and Dwarven Hammers are always good. Now, Death 2 or Death 3. Depends if your Pretender has hand slots or not. Like this guy has a hand slot, so Death 2. You're going to forge up a Skull Staff, put a Skull Staff on him from Construction 4. Then you're going to go all the way down to Conjuration 7. And once you're at Conjuration 7, use your Pretender with the Skull Staff on him to summon up a Mound Fiend. Mound Fiends are a Death 3 caster that take Death 3 to cast. You then use the Mound Fiends, put Skull Staffs on them, and you have Death 4 casters for Darkness. Darkness, very, very good with those Lobo Guard because they have Dark Vision 100%. This is also very much a case of pretty much any of Atlantis' ages. If you can get a hold of Death 2 on your Pretender, very worthwhile for them as well, because Darkness is just such a valuable tool. And generally speaking, they don't have the ability to get that Death 4 caster without doing that. Of course, you still got to go to Alteration 6 as well for the Darkness spell. The other is going to be Nature 2, Astral 1, or if you don't have hand slots again, Nature 3, Astral 1. So create a Thistle Mace, put the Thistle Mace on your Pretender. Then you use the Thistle Mace to forge a Moonvine Bracelet. Put the Moonvine Bracelet on your Pretender. Go to Conjuration 7 again. Then you summon up an Ivy King, which are Nature 3 casters. That's going to allow you to just basically have Nature 3 casters without making a bunch of boosters all the time. Or you can have them be an outlet for your Nature Gems. They're very good at things like Vine Ogres and stuff like that because they have that Ivy King bonus. Outside this, though, you can then put both the boosters on them and have Nature 5 casters. If you want to go down to the enchantment quite a ways, you've got Mass Regeneration that you're going to suddenly have access to. If you go down the Alteration route, which you're probably going to be doing anyways, Mother of Oak at Nature 5 is also available, the Nature Gem Generating Global. Now, I will say, any 3 of these can be accessed for a 30 gem empower. There's a Slave Mage's path if he pulls a random nature, 30 nature gems, and you suddenly have the 2 nature, 1 astral. Pretty simple. As far as Earth goes, either a Slave Mage or a Crazy Mage at Astral 1, Earth 1. You're going to empower them, put a pair of Earth Boots on him, so the Slave Mage actually has to go onto land to do this. And with the Earth Boots on him, he's Earth 3, and he's able to forge Dwarven Hammers. If you have a Crazy Mage that's the Earth 1, Astral 1, just 30 gem empower and then put boots on him. You can even take him underwater. Got to be careful about the boots being on the Slave Mage, though. Don't do things like me and forget about it and walk underwater and lose 10 gems, because you'll feel like a fool. Same thing with the Death. Take Crazy Mage, Astral 1, Death 1, and 30 Death Gems, and suddenly you've got a Death 2, Astral 1 caster. So those are all capable of... Well, I mean, 30 gems is a lot, but compared to design points, which you might be short on, is it worth it? I don't know. I'm just kind of telling you the three and kind of what you can do with them. You make up your own mind. Dominion 6. Go higher, go lower, that's fine. Just know why you're doing it. As a water nation, never a bad idea to throw an extra bit of points if you have it into Dominion. You do have the pop-up others. You can say, well, I'll just throw more gold at the problem, which is fine too. Order's good, gold is good. If you're kind of desperate for points, Order 3 does combo really good with Misfortune 1, because you still have a negative 1% chance for events to happen. I would never go above Misfortune 1. It used to be really good for Order 3 Misfortune 2, but not too far into the game they added a bunch of events to Misfortune 2 to kind of... because that was pretty much the most common scale that you would see across all nations. So, might get stuck in the water, being able to get a bunch of gym events, especially, although gold events are nice as well. Turmoil 3, Luck 3. I mean, when you're going low and negative into the income already, the gold events are nice, but they're generally not going to equal what you're losing from the turmoil. It's mostly the gems you're getting out of things. That's maybe not a terrible idea. Productivity scales are trash. It's actually the first thing I tried with this nation. Sloth scales are not bad. Sloth scales are actually a great dump scale if you're needing to put points somewhere else. So what you'll find is you basically just say, well, I'll use the very few or the unarmored versions of my slaves. Beyond that, though, I'm going to expand with just those plus the Shambler Thralls. And then when I hit the later part of the game, I'm going to use basically nothing but Lobo Guard. With excellent fort placement, and I do mean excellent, like top-end fort placement, you could still even manage to get like 4 to 4.5 Mind Blasters a turn with negative 45% resources. Don't expect that all the time or just anywhere you put it. Generally speaking, more sane would be like 3 Mind Blasters a turn at Sloth 3. But considering so many of your guys can be recruited at 2 or 1 resource, Sloth 3 is a pretty decent dump scale overall. You don't have to go all the way to Sloth 3, by the way. It's very, very easy, you know, go Sloth 1 if you want or something like that. Heat 3 or Cold 3 is always advisable if you need points on a water nation. And I'm going to be very clear about this. Let's take all the points. This is actually good to do pretty much with any nation unless you have a reason not to do it. But let's say these are my scales right here. Sea provinces will never actually be 3 heat or 3 cold. They only go up to 1 heat or 1 cold. So any sea provinces you have are actually going to look like this right here. Deep sea provinces actually don't shift scale at all. They will never be heat or cold scales in any direction for any reason. So you can really get some extra points, and especially if you just throw it straight into order, as long as you've got a decent core of water, by the way. Not going to help if you really don't have a core of water where most of your provinces are. Something like a map like Bidian would be one I'm looking at that could be problematic for this. But a great place to pick up extra points with not just this, but any water nation. So, Heat 3. You do have the Old Age Mages, and you are a water nation, meaning basically anything can cross the river, whether it's froze or not, so heat's not a bad idea. On the flip side, you got a lot of water casters. You can do things like Conjuration Water Elementals, or Bottles of Living Water for Water Elementals, or even the Global, although it's pretty terrible against the AI. They spam too many temples, like Vengeful Waters, which creates... assassination attempts with water elementals. Any water elementals cast in a cold dominion are ice elementals, which are tramplers and have quite a bit of armor. They're a lot better. After this, scaling your gold out throughout the game with the growth modifier here, never a bad idea. Death scales, rarely a good idea. In fact, I use death scales on 5 nations in the game, 5, and only one of them is not a pop kill nation. In case anybody's wondering, that would be EA Abysia. You can grab the Luck 3 without the Turmoil, but it's certainly not as effective. You guys saw me do an Order 3, Luck 3 last game with Sarumatia. On the flip side, if you just absolutely need the points, it's still only a positive 5% chance that events happen, and they're not going to be, like, terrifying or deadly at Misfortune 1. They're going to be just pretty annoying, yes, but they're not going to be like a nightmare type set of events. You need a ton, and I mean a ton of research. I would highly suggest Magic 3, but if you haven't noticed anything before, I generally play a game where I scale it out and use either particular magic or just a rainbow in general with a lot of cool magical access. So that's kind of, I don't know, maybe a big bias on my part, because I see a lot of players go like Drain 1 or Drain 2. The only nations I use Drain on are the nations that ignore it. And that's only 2 nations in the game, so... Okay, my preferred build. Really, you don't have to put the 2 points here. I just do it for ease of sight searching. And the Water 4, that's literally just so that I don't have to go to Conjuration 8. At Evocation 8 is Maelstrom. That's the water gem generating global. It's probably the best of the gem generating globals as well. But it's all the way down at Evocation 8. Takes water 6 to cast. You can, without your pretender doing it, you can go all the way to Construction 6, get a water bracelet, put a water bracelet on a 4-water Mind Lord. Go all the way to Conjuration 8 then, summon a Queen of Elemental Water, put the water bracelet on her, and then cast Maelstrom after you get to Evocation 8. That's a lot of research going to Evocation 8. In fact, I like Alteration 9, Thaumaturgy 9, Evocation 9, Conjuration 7, and Construction 7 with his nation. So, basically anything other than Enchantment or Blood is a pretty decent area, and it's very deep that you can go into these areas. Which, to me, not having to go past that Conjuration 7 really saves me a lot. But this just kind of screams my type of build. Scale it out. I got both the Nature boosters and then the Ivy Kings. I've got a single Death booster and then the Darkness Casters. I've got both the Astral boosters. I've got Dwarven Hammers and one of the Earth boosters. I've got ease of use as far as the global goes. I've got my Amulets of the Fish. I've even got Flaming Skulls, which you then put on your Pretender, and with Fire 3 summon up Flame Spirits for Fire Casters. So, this is just more my type of playstyle right here. I'm not actually going to be taking this. I just was going to show what my preferred way to go is, and I think that should be pretty obvious to people who've seen me play. I really like a lot of skills with better magic. Somebody wanted to see, at the end of my Sarumatia game, a Awake SC. Now, I don't know if they're a little confused or if they understand this, but there actually is no such thing as an Awake SC. Awake SCs are SCs in the terms of, like, during the first year, they can stomp the piss out of most anything on the map. After that, they're not an SC because, well, first off, you're going Awake, so you're really short on points. You're going to be very low on what skills you want, or you're going to want a lot of skills probably, but you're just going to have to either sacrifice some magic power or some skills. But beyond this, all of your monster chases, they're the most expensive for new magic path costs at 80, which means grabbing up, like Death Magic. Death Magic, oh man, that is just ridiculously expensive for 80 points. Outside of this, they just got wonky gear setups, head and 2 miscellaneous slots. 2 miscellaneous slots, a head slot and 2 miscellaneous slots, 2 head and 2 miscellaneous slots. So you're not going to be able to really put the items on them. I actually really like the Kraken. I think he scales very well into the game, but I just don't have a lot of maps that I would play it. And I wouldn't play it as this nation anyways. I want to get on the land without my god having to do it. There's just something fun about a brand plus 3 shields. I don't know who you are, but I am going to throw my phone at the freaking window. Yeah, best option, generally speaking, going to be the Earth Snake. Very, very cost effective at 130. He's got base 22 protection because he comes with the 2 Earth Magic as well. But on top of this, he's got recuperation, which is a massive deal on a expander. In fact, I really think his hit points are a little too high, or a lot of the other various guys are a little too low. Floating Mind, he's so cheap that I don't think that's the case. But like Sea Dragon, 20 more points here. Can't go on land, doesn't recuperate. Same protection level, but not the Earth Magic, so he can't scale it up. Even if this guy just needs more hit points, in my opinion. So does the Worm, who relies on regeneration and only has 160 hit points. The Earth Serpent is just either too strong or everything else is a hair too weak, which I think is actually the case, because you generally don't want to use an Awake Expander. I can say nothing good, but good things about the Kraken here, though, overall. Very low protection, so you gotta put some Earth Magic into it. Outside of that, though, the Python, I mean, it's very easy to grab up two points right here. So something like, that right there. And suddenly I've got, Reinvigoration 2. That's a pretty good Mage Bless no matter which nation you're looking at. Not all of them can use it, but enough of them can to where it's worth it. So I'm going to take this guy, though. That's mostly because the new path cost for that 1 water, 1 air, it's going to be 160 points here. I can literally buy an air, and then, of course, I'm going to have at least Dom 6. I can buy the Air 1, and then go all the way to Dom 9 for the Ah, cheaper than I can buy a Water-Air combo on the other Pretender. So this just works out good, since I'm in the water anyways. So let's dump that. Oh, yeah. So we're going to use the overall build I've been using. Where are my points at? Oh. There we go. So, this is the core of what I've been using. I will tell you, this god is quite fragile, though. 15 protection. Now, he does have 1 Earth Magic, so that's actually a 16 starting out. And this would be an 18 right here. The more Earth Magic you put on him, the more protection he's going to have. This is what I've been using a lot of the time. And it's not bad. You just have to understand this god is fragile. By the end of the first year, if not before, this god is basically useless. He's going to have too many afflictions, and he's going to be beat up ridiculously bad. But there's, 70 points to play around with here, and everybody's seen what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up to Dom 9, and then I'm going to have to pay for Dom 9. So I'm going to grab up a couple of Sloth Scales here, and 24 points goes, it doesn't matter. I can grab Air 3 or Earth 4. I generally grab the Earth 4 just in case the Reinvigoration, I find some good Lizard Shamans or something that might be nice on them at some point in the game. No real reason, though. There's a lot of variants you can do, though. I mean, you can go like Dom 7 and grab up, Earth 4 again, plus Water 1. You can grab up triple Sloth Scales, and that will buy you 3 of any single path that you want, which isn't bad. There's a lot of options from where I bring you at right here, though. And, whoops. Yeah, Dom 10, I wouldn't do that, though. That's pretty expensive, no matter how you look at it. So this is a solid build, in my opinion. Certainly not the greatest. We're going to double-check that, because something didn't look right there. Nine. Oops. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Earth 4 doesn't really seem to net me anything outside the Reinvigoration, so... Which, honestly, the only Sacred Mage I have is the Abudai. So with this nation, it doesn't really even net me anything at all. It's on the off chance that I happen to find a good Sacred Troop or even Mage or something like that. So I guess I was right. Grafe. Set the random events to common. I really wish that was set to common anyways. 5 players, 2 points apiece, 2/3, 6 to 7. We'll call it 7, that's fine. Alright, big money, big money, big money, no whammy, and... Whammy. Oh, Pelagia. Oh well. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I will catch you next time.